All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, pay no attention to the guy in the beard. Okay. We're dealing with some technical difficulties for going forward, so with the rest of the presentation tonight. So he's going to be fixing that, hopefully, while we're getting started. All right? So Elder's not here tonight because he's a little bit still under the weather. So you got me. Yay! And the crowd went wild. Okay, now, all right. Or as they would say in Monty Python, and there was much rejoicing. Okay. All right, now, that being said, okay, welcome to our Tuesday. I'm so used to back in the day saying Tuesday night Torah studies. Shows you how long ago I've been doing these on a regular basis. Welcome to our Friday night Torah study. All right, so very exciting. Tonight we begin a journey with our exploration of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, which means we're going to be having our presentation led by our MTOI director, Rebbe Julie, okay, who is my personal resident expert on the tabernacle. And so we're going to have her lead through the presentation for the next couple of weeks as we start dealing with the tabernacle and all things tabernacle. Plus, you'll be very blessed to see imagery of the things that are discussed in the scriptures because we have PowerPoint for that if this man in the beard can fix the problem. Okay, and then we will have that. All right, that being said, okay, yeah, you got that pressure. He's like, whew, okay, we're going to work on that. Now, that being said, we're going to begin, as always, with our praise and prayer, and we'll begin with Marlene.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So I have a praise. So we found out, I think, Wednesday that we had a horrible electrical problem with sizzling and arcing and all kind of stuff. So one praise is we did not catch on fire, so hallelujah. And the other praise is...
I only hire staff that's not flammable.
We're all flammable. Okay, so anyway, my actual praise is that when we were told that it was going to take like 2 days to fix the... we were going to be without electricity for 2 days. Me and Kathy both had places that we could go. We called up sisters, and we were able to, spend the night with sisters. And
yeah, because after all, with the way the weather's been, we didn't want you to freeze to death. It's been like 60 degrees.
There's no electricity, not just heat.
I'm teasing.
Okay.
Teasing.
Ha ha ha. So anyway,
You're fired.
It's Shabbat. Can't fire me on Shabbat.
There's no rules about that. I can fire you anytime I want. All right.
So anyway, my praise is that, we had this dire situation that looked like it was dire, and we were easily able to overcome it. And I had complete immunity about the whole thing. And, so it was when it happened, when it came about, it was like, oh my gosh, and then it was like, okay, let me just work this out. And so it worked out. So hallelujah. Praise Yahweh.
Amen. Amen. Look, I'm just misbehaving just enough to get Elder to make himself never want to be sick again and miss out on this. To that, he'll be like, we cannot let Rabbi do this again. All right, Ashley.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
If you don't mind, I want to come up here for prayers. I had found out this afternoon after I got off the phone with someone that someone I was very, very close to as a kid and a young adult had passed away through not so fun circumstances, and she was the one person I could just look at and didn't have to talk about anything to. So if you can just keep me in prayers about that, and everyone just keep laughing so I can forget about it.
Good. I'll make the effort. Apparently, most people don't think I'm being funny tonight, so we'll make an effort. We'll see how that goes. All right, Shamash Harold.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
I know you fired me multiple times on Shabbat, so
Look, we do have most of you might not know this. There is a rule, though, that being fired is no excuse not to do your job.
I've been here a few times asking for prayer for my daughter-in-law, Jeanette, who broke her ankle on Thanksgiving. It's been this long since they've had it. She had her surgery Thursday. It took 6 hours. They had to break 3 bones to get it right, put plates in there. But she's got to go back every week or two to turn it a little, put a new cast on it and turn it because it was turned so far the wrong way when they first said it. So she's got to go back at least. So
Wow.
Still got a little bit more to go, but at least now she's had the surgery. Praise for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else here locally? All right, live stream. John?
From Mike Robillard. Praise Yah, this week my job downsized about 150 people. I was one of the few they kept. I praise Yah that favor in the eyes of the decision makers. From Sarah Gibbs, prayers for health, upcoming travel, and work. Let's see. From Ashley Williams, prayers for a safe return of coworker's nephew who's been missing for a week. From Shelley Bell, praises that chest x-rays were negative and prayers that the doctors can figure out why I'm having breathing issues. Yahweh's in control. And that is it. We're caught up.
All right. Appreciate that. Okay, so we do want to also add to the prayer and praise. We had a really good leader meeting, right? Leadership. Okay, it was fantastic. We did really great with that, so we appreciate all the leaders that were able to be there in the meeting. And actually, it was one of the shorter ones. We only went 4 hours. So it worked out beautifully for that. And all of you should be praising Yah for the people that have stepped up around the world to be available, to serve in that capacity, okay? Because it's a lot to do. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of responsibility. And it's also not fun at times. You get to be a target for everybody. So I really appreciate the men who've stepped up that are working with us, and it's fantastic. All right. So we also want to continue to pray for all those that have contacted us since the last time we got together. We have people during the week that have contacted us. We certainly want to pray for them. All right, who do we have opening us in prayer? Shamash Rob. Okay. So if you all rise, we'll open in prayer.
All right, Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this awesome week that we've had, and thank you for this day that you've set apart for us, that we can come and worship and be together as a family as we come to our Shabbat. Father, we ask that all these prayers and praises that's brought before you, the spoken and unspoken, that you answer them the way that you see that they need to be answered. Sometimes it could be yes, sometimes no, sometimes maybe we have to wait. It's all in your time, and Father, that we ask that those that are not here with us locally, that are sick, under the weather, for whatever reason, that you watch over them, that they will return back healthy and that they enjoy it. This is available for them, that they can watch from this side, that they're really kind of still part of it and still can be with us. Father, we ask that all this in your Son's name, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, Shamash Rob. Okay, so again, because we're doing things a little bit differently, and the man in the beard still hasn't fixed the problem, okay. We're going to go ahead and do the announcements next. Okay, we were planning to do that anyway. We were going to do the announcements next so that we wouldn't interrupt the flow of the presentation. So we're going to bring up Brianna with the announcements.
Okay. Did a little. Shabbat Shalom. There's a lot more people here tonight. I'm excited about that. All right, well, we'd like to welcome you to our Torah study. So we haven't started it yet, but we will be doing that shortly after my announcements. We have a very special Torah study that's going to be presented by Revitz Julie and Miss Selena Stevenson, so that's exciting. So before that, I get to take you through our announcement section, giving you an overview of what we provide as a ministry and hopefully some events that you can go ahead and sign up for or join us and slowly start to become part of the family. So we live stream twice a week on YouTube. So especially for our live stream family, this is important to know. So for tomorrow, we have our Shabbat service at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're joining online, you can join the room at 1 o'clock. And then our service typically lasts till around 5:30, giving us a great way to interact with each other and our Elohim on Shabbat. And then the next one is what we're doing right now is our Torah studies. So this is every Friday. Before the Torah study, if you're a local or if you're visiting, we have an Erev Shabbat meal at 6 p.m. And then the live stream for this Torah study, it starts at 7:30. And we usually have readers take us through the Torah portion. But this week and next week, we have special presentations. So this is exciting with visuals. So stay tuned for that right after the announcements. And then we have the Parsha Pearls program, which is especially important for today because what we will be able to view from this special Torah study is from the Parsha Pearls and all of the incredible drawings and hard work that they put into it. It is especially great for this one because it's all about the tabernacle and it's very visual, so we get to see all of that. So with Parsha Pearls, this is on its own website, and it's created, I should say, this is created by Revis and Julie. And if you would like to view this, it's on ymtoi.org, and it's meant more for the children, so we have 2 different age groups. This is the younger group, we call them the Gem Seekers. This is ages 5 through 8. And the older group is the Pearl Seekers. They're ages 9 through 9 and 9 plus, because everybody here is going to get to enjoy and get something out of the Parsha Pearls tonight. So with our Parsha Pearls program, it is all free and available for you to use. And what's included is child-friendly stories and lessons, lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, even a song and a snack, all related to the Torah portion of that week. So it's very interactive, lots of fun, and also it's very informative. So they'll be able to really dig into the word. So if you have any questions at all, you can reach out to Rebus and Julie through her email, parshapearls@mtoi.org. And also the Parsha Pearls program is posted on Sundays so that you can have access to it throughout your week. Speaking of Parshas, we have a Parsha schedule available on our website that you can download, and it's under the Resources tab. So how this works is we have Genesis through Deuteronomy in a yearly cycle, and the dates on the left-hand side correspond to the Torah studies so that you know which Parsha we are going to be going over each week. The last class that I'll talk about is for our teenagers. So this is the Torah Teens class, and it's with Rabbi Tom. So every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, the teenagers, so ages 13 through 19, get together to discuss various books from the scriptures. And if you would like your teenager to be involved, or if you are a teenager and you want to join, you can get the Zoom meeting link by emailing torahtime@mtoi.org. We also have a Torah Teens Shabbat class. So every Shabbat after the chuppah, except for during Zone 1. And if you're watching the Shabbat live stream, Rabbi will say, now the teenagers online, if you wanted to join the Zoom meeting room, that's when they will be doing it, after we bless the children under the chuppah. So that's it for Torah Teens. A resource on our website, we have audio scripture readings, and they are read by Miss Shira Wendling. So if you were interested in hearing any of the scripture being read, she read Genesis through Revelation, and she read the first 5 books according to their Torah portion. Yay! So that's it for that. Then we have our YouTube content. So we post Monday through Wednesday and all throughout the week. And our main video starts with Wednesdays. So Wednesdays, we get our teaching of the week. And this week was Hasatan Part 18, but also the thumbnail I made was the Devil's Prey. and he kind of deep dives into at the beginning of the video what it means to be pray. So I highly recommend watching that if you haven't already. Then on Thursdays, we get our afterburn. This is the Q&A session from that teaching, and it says feelings versus truth. So if you haven't watched those, I highly recommend. And then Fridays, we get our In Focus videos. So these are short standalone videos taken from a teaching that have an impactful topic. So we make it its own separate video. So if you didn't get to watch the one from today, go ahead and watch it. They're usually not very long, but they're always really great and good content. And then Mondays through Friday, we get our YouTube shorts. So they're just a minute-long segments taken from a teaching, and they're great bite-sized videos. And with YouTube, oh wait, I think Rabbi's going to talk about that, so I'll skip that for now. But if you're watching right now, you should definitely hit the subscribe button, join us, and hit the notifications bell, because I know that was a lot, and it's hard to remember when we post. So if you want to just get the notification on your phone or on your laptop, hit the notifications bell. And we are also on social media. So on Facebook, we're MTOI Worldwide, and TikTok and Instagram, we're MTOI_worldwide. So if you wanted to support us in that way as well, you can follow us on them, on all of those socials. And we also have our MTOI app. So if you don't have the app already, it has all of our content in one easy, accessible spot. And so with that, we get messages on Erev Shabbat, and it's from a new member of leadership. So this week, we will be getting a message from Arthur, and he is the Canada Regional Coordinator. So I don't know if we got the message yet, but we should be getting it around 8 p.m. So stay tuned for that. And if you have the app and you're not currently getting notifications, you're going to have to go to the profile button in the upper right corner. You're going to scroll down to notifications, slide the general button, it should turn green. Yay. Okay, it took it a second. And then next, we're going to talk about something exciting. So this is for our zone meetings. So we are an international ministry, and we try to reach as many of our international mishpacha in Hebrew means family, and we try to have them be able to engage with Rabbi once a month during their Shabbat time. And these meetings are called zone meetings because we like to group these different countries into their time zones. So the zone meetings are Q&A sessions, and we will start with Zone 3. So this is for those in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, Malaysia. They get to ask their questions on Friday, March 6th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is for Zone 3 to ask their questions, but none of the zone meetings are exclusive to that zone. Everyone is included and 100% welcome to join. We even encourage you to join because it's always great to join and hear all of the amazing questions and see the faces of the people that we don't always get to see. Also, I think about it, they always are seeing you guys on screen and listening to your questions, so it's kind of nice to repay the favor a little. I don't know how to word it, but it's nice to also be more, kind of moral support in a way. But it's also you get something out of it. It's not just being moral support, but it's part of being a family. So I would recommend that everybody watching join these meetings, regardless if you're the one asking the question or not. Great. So, yeah. And they're also not recorded sessions, so if you don't end up being able to show up, you will not be able to watch it, and that's that. So how do you join? You email zoom@mtoi.org to get an autoresponder link, and then you can have access to all of the Zone meetings from there. So this is all in one weekend. So the next day, on March 7th, is for Zone 2. They will be asking their questions, and this is for those in United Kingdom, Europe, and Africa. So on March 7th, as I said, that's the following day on the Shabbat at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And then again, this one is on Zoom. That same day, during our regular Shabbat live stream, we will get Zone 1 for the local Beth Shalomers. So this one is live streamed on YouTube, as I said, so everyone will just join the regular Shabbat time, and instead of a teaching, we will have the Zone 1 meeting. If we have extra time and you're watching online, we will open up the chat room for those who are in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, and Central America to ask their questions. If you have any questions that you don't want to bring to a Zone meeting, you can go to our Contact Us page on our website, or you can send us an email at questions@mtoi.org. So the next event we have is Purim. So this is going to be for those who are attending locally or if you're visiting. So this is on Tuesday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. We will have desserts, Esther readings, and a celebration. So I always look forward to it. So yeah. And with the Purims, with Purim coming up, we have a teaching on YouTube, Purim Defended. So if you wanted to go ahead and watch that and hearing Rabbi's defense to why we do Purim, I would recommend watching that. And then another video, this is for a traditional treat that we make. It's called Hamantashen, and we have a video on our YouTube as a part of a series called Set Apart Cooking. So if you wanted to watch that, learn how to make this delicious treat. And you can use pretty much any filling you want. And we just picked some of the more traditional ones and some of the more fun ones. So I would definitely recommend watching it. And also, if your cookies don't turn out beautiful, don't worry about it because they're going to taste good regardless. If it has more filling, it's going to taste really good, but it might not turn out so pretty. But it's okay. It takes practice. Okay. And then something to mark on your calendar is it's actually already marked on everyone's calendar, but something to be aware of. Daylight savings begins on Sunday, March 8th, and that'll be, clocks will be moving forward 1 hour at 2 a.m. And a great day to schedule something important is we have the MTOI Pesach Craft Prep Party on that day. Yeah, so pretty much if you're using a phone or anything for alarm clocks or anything, it will automatically change. If you're using a physical clock, that's where the issue lies. So who uses that anymore? I'm just kidding. Some people do. Okay, so the MTOI Pesach Craft Prep Party, Sunday, March 8th at 10 a.m. for the ladies and Gadol-aged girls. No children at this event. We will announce more details as we get closer to it. Okay, then the next Leadership Council meeting is going to be on March 15th at 12 p.m. This is once a month where all our leadership get together and discuss various matters, and we like to announce it so that we can be keeping them in our prayers. The next Rosh Chodesh is going to be for Aviv on Thursday, March 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join us for the service in the room or on the live stream. We won't have a meal, but you are more than welcome to bring desserts or sides to share. All right, and then we have Pesach coming up. All right, so April 1st through the 9th is the event for us, and you can go to our website for all of the details of our schedule. And we also, this is one of the final reminders at this point, to register and get your payment in because the deadline is February 27th, so TikTok next week. If you haven't gotten your registration in at this point, shame on you. But please get your registration in. And if you are unable to or need help or assistance with anything, we're always available during office hours. Call our office number or send us an email, feast@mtoi.org. And we just look forward to seeing you all there. But we also, to see you all there, you have to register on time. Anyway, so... and that is all for me for now. Shabbat Shalom, and enjoy the rest of our amazing Torah study.
There we go. All right. Excellent job, Brianna. Thank you. As far as the amazing presentation, we're still working on some technical difficulties, so hopefully these things will get sorted out while I finish the announcements. So we'll see if we can get that done here. I'm not used to having this mic in front of me when I'm trying to read my announcements, so that's going to be a little different. All right, so let's keep going when it comes to Passover. If, for whatever reason, you have a legitimate reason why you can't get your stuff in by the 27th, next Friday, then just contact us, okay? We want everybody to be able to come. Okay, we're just also here to be a part of encouraging you to, in a mature way, practice being on time and getting things in as directed so that we can plan for these things. Like, because, we have that prep party coming up for the MTOI program, and we need to have a fairly solid idea of how many children will be in the program for this feast so that we can cut the right amount of materials for all the crafts they're going to do. And so, we always make a little bit of extra, but still, if you have a lot of extra just show up that we didn't know about, it could be a little challenging, right? And so we don't want anybody to be like, how come you don't have anything for my child? I don't know, because you didn't send your registration in to the last second. Okay, so let's try not to do that, okay? Let's try not to do that. Okay, so we have MTOI Extension congregations. All right, and you know what? Going forward after Passover, when I have a little bit more time, I'm really going to be focusing a lot more intention and attention on these groups to really help to support and grow what they're doing where they are, and as well as being able to go out there and visit some of these places, and then we can announce, and so maybe people will show up knowing that we announced it and said, hey, we're going to be at this place, so we're going to try and do more of that. All right, so we do have extension congregations. So these are extensions. They're not independent congregations. They're a part of MTOI. They're extensions of what we do here. All right, and we have a whole bunch of them around the world, and I'm going to tell you about them by zone. Brianna told you what the zones are all about, right? So Zone 1, okay, has the following congregations. One in Byron, Georgia, Baltimore, Maryland, Grand Island, Nebraska, Alamogordo, New Mexico, Urbana, Ohio, Houston, and Odessa, Texas, and a regional coordinator. So we don't have a congregation there, but we have a regional coordinator in Canada. Okay, so some of these are home fellowships. Some of them meet outside the house, not just here, but the other ones I'm going to mention as well. And we do own the buildings in Urbana and Odessa as well as here. Okay, I just mentioned that because those are places that we can do what we want, when we want, as we need, without needing to worry about somebody saying, sorry, we already booked the place for something else, right? Okay, Zone 2. All right, Zone 2. Starting up in the UK, we've got one that meets north and south of London. So in the south, it's in Surrey. In the north, it's in Bicester. Okay, then we go down to Africa. In Namibia, we've got one in Windhoek. In South Africa, we have 7 congregations. All right, we've got in the Western Cape, we have 3, Somerset West, Sedgefield, and Oates Warren. The one in Somerset West is basically Cape Town area, okay? I know that there's not a lot of parts of South Africa that probably most of you are aware of, so there are a few that you may have heard of, and that's Cape Town. I figured you would know better than Somerset West. All right. Then in the Northern Cape, we have one in Dar and one in Uppington. And then in Gauteng, we have one in Pretoria. So you probably heard of Pretoria. And then in Limpopo, we have one in Tzaneen, where you probably never heard of Limpopo or Tzaneen. All right. So that's our Zone 2 congregations. Now, we do have our leadership little photograph here. We're going to get one for the Zone 1 guys, too, here in a minute. All right. So starting up at the upper part where the MTOI logo is and going clockwise, okay? So we've got Shamish Grayson, okay, and he's over there in the Somerset West. Then we got Peter John, who's in Pretoria. We got Dion and Gwen in Dar, Scott and Maurice in Oostwarren, Jurgen and Yolandi in Uppington, Gerhard and Yolandi in Tzaneen. So we got 2 Yolandi, spelled differently. Johan and Joan in Sedgefield, Jose and Shaylee in the UK, okay, and then Timmy and Sone in Namibia, and Bernard and Elmarie in Somerset West. All right. All right, now we have Zone 3. So in Zone 3, we've got a regional coordinator in Australia. We've got 2 in New Zealand. The Auckland one meets on an every once a month, I guess, basis, and the Wellington one meets every week. And the Philippines, we've got one in Davao and one in Manila, okay? All right, so here's the picture for Zone 3. All right, yeah. All right, So starting again clockwise on the top, you have Shamish June in the Philippines. Then you have Dale and Lisa. So Dale's our regional coordinator in Australia. Then you got Mark and Tracy in New Zealand. Joelle and Rachel in New Zealand as well. They're the ones up in Auckland. Mark and Tracy are down in Wellington. Then Alden and Ihia, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name properly, in the Philippines. And then Jet and Jessica in the Philippines. All right. Zone oneers. Shamish, Gary sent out that email. I need your pictures so we can make your slide, okay? Got to get you guys. Leave it to the local people, the closest ones, to be the ones that don't get the thing done, right? Just leave it to that. All right. So there's your leadership. Now, if you would like to visit or attend any of these congregations, we have a way for you to do that. Go to the MTOI Connect the Connect. Well, no, that's the way. This is now on the Contact Us page. Fill out the appropriate form on the MTOI.org Contact Us page. If you would like to connect with somebody there, here's how you do it. Okay, we'll see Tommy filling it out. That's our webmaster. So you get an idea of how things get filled out. Okay, so let us know by filling out the form. Your information will get to the leader of that particular extension, and the extension leader will get in touch with you, okay, to visit that area. If you would like a congregation or an extension started where you are, and there isn't one listed here, just let us know. Fill out the same thing, an appropriate form on the website, and let us know, and we will start to accumulate the information about who's interested and hopefully lives near enough to each other so we can start something, okay? All right, that sounds great with that. All right, we're also excited that the zones also have live Shabbat services in all three zones. Obviously, this one is Zone 1, the one we do here. So the Friday night we're doing right now, and then tomorrow, 1 o'clock in Zone 1. But Zone 2 and Zone 3 also do a Zoom live Shabbat in their time zones at a very similar time that we do it here in our time zone, okay? So Zone 2 does theirs Erev Shabbat Friday nights at 6:15, and then Torah Study at 7:15. That's both on Friday nights, and then Saturday at 1, okay? And Zone 3 does theirs at Friday night at 7 and Shabbat at 1. So Zone 2 is on Cape Town time. Zone 3 is on Manila in the Philippines time. All of these are Zoom, so to get the link to do this the same way you get the link for the zone meetings. Not the same link, but the same way. Send an email to zoom@mtoi.org, and you'll get actually 3 different links. You're going to get one for the zone meetings, one for the Zone 2 Shabbats, and one for Zone 3 Shabbats. Just make sure you click the correct link with the thing you're trying to get into. Otherwise, you'll be sitting in a waiting room for a long time. Because it's just assuming if you click on it that somebody's going to open that room at some point, but it may not be until like the next week. Okay, so if you click on the wrong one. So just make sure you're clicking on the right link, and you should be able to have no problem attending these services. And just look up on your computer, your phone, whatever, what time it is there based on what time it is where you are, right? This is on either Zone 3 will be on Manila in the Philippines time, and Zone 2 will be on Cape Town time, Somerset West time, okay? All right, the Level Up class. I don't know, just do it. I don't know what else to say. Just do it, It's like a Nike commercial, I guess. But just do it, all right? Okay, the Level Up class, it's free. It's for you. It's to work on all the areas of your life, to work on you being this fully leveled up person in all your areas, whether it's finances or health or relationships or spiritual or community or mental health or whatever it is, okay? It's all covered in this program. Please make use of this free program, okay? Very important that you have that. YouTubers, we need 107. That's it to get to 50,000. I don't know if you noticed, but our subs have started going up. Like, we've been getting a lot more. It's been going well. I attribute that to some guidance from Mr. Harrison, as applied also by Brianna and her team. Okay, so we've got some people that have given us some good insight, like the scary claws of the devil coming to get you, what makes you pray, as in P-R-E-Y. All right, which may also make you pray, P-R-A-Y. Okay, so there you go. But let's see if we can get that last 107 worked out. Okay, we're almost to 50. Okay, at the rate we're going right now, we'll probably have that in about 2 weeks. That'll be so exciting. It only took us, since 2013. So it's taken us 12 years to get there, 13 years to get there. All right. And then our Wealth Development Club. Okay, we're meeting this Sunday, okay, here in this building, in this room at 11. Okay, I don't want anybody to start wondering and asking because you guys don't listen to announcement stuff. So here in this room at 11 on Sunday, and it's going to run. That's it. It's going to run. Okay. I have no idea how long it's going to run. Okay. Probably at least 2 or 3 hours. Well, at least 3 hours, I would say, at least. Okay. So from 11 to like 2, maybe 3. Okay. We're going to try to answer everybody's questions as best we can. No matter what questions you came with, I'm going to trigger a whole lot more. Okay. So, I know that every answer to every question is only going to stimulate more questions. We are going to be talking about technicals and charts when it comes to the stock market and options trading, and we're going to be talking about options trading, okay? And that'll be, again, this Sunday at 11, all right? And so, anyway, I think that's going to cover it here. How are we doing, Tommy? Are we just about, is it working? Okay, so they can come up and okay. Fantastic. So, with that being said, we're going to bring up our special presenters for the night, Rabbits and Julie and Selena. All right, just real quickly, I'll get on the camera here for a second. Just real quickly, anybody out there is going to have a meltdown because I've got a woman teaching, okay, or doing anything like that. This is all with my approval, all with my guidance, and this is a program we already give the children. Well, we're taking it to a higher level here, and it's going to be this tremendous presentation with visuals, because a lot of times when it comes to something, especially like the tabernacle, it's really helpful to have the visuals, all right? So it's a fantastic program, and it gives me an opportunity to not have to be up here and not have to do things so somebody else can. But quite frankly, this is a way better job than I would do. Just being honest about it, all right? It's a much better job than I would do. So with that being said, here's Reverend Julie and Selena.
Testing. Okay. No, that's good. All right. So, welcome to our YM2I presentation of Parsha Terumah. I know they said to give them a minute, but we do have some things that we want to show visually that we have here on the table for you. Since we did say this is a YM2I presentation, all of our visuals that we will be showing you tonight is from our Parsha Pearls lessons. So I just wanted to show you what we provide in the lessons. So just, if you can focus on this. So for Terumah, we have a 19.1 Little Gems and Pearl Seeking lesson. And then the title for that is Blueprints for the Mishkan Furnishings. And all it does is these lessons focus on the verses that have to do with the furnishing. Oh, wow, that is so close on my face. Does it have to be that close? Oh, because they can't see my hand. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to show you that we have quite a lot of visuals throughout the lesson. We have worksheets that the children are to do based on the verses that they fill out. We also have provided answer keys. This is for the teachers or for the parents so that they can have the answer key, or that parents can fill it out themselves. And we also have, with 19.1, we have a craft that Selena's going to be showing up, and we did an incense sachet that the children can make, and you can put incense inside of these sachets. So the children have done that. We also have, for the lesson, an ability to make the red, blue, and purple material. So they do that with markers, and they spray alcohol on it, and it blends the colors. We also have, for the notebook page, showing all the different coverings for the dwelling place. We have the red, blue, and purple material. Then we have the goat's hair and the ram skins dyed red, and then the leather. And then we have the Hebrew words for all of those. So they are able to create that themselves, and they're all done with materials that you have at home. We also have another notebook page that shows all the furnishings, the furniture for the dwelling place, and you can use gold glitter glue to make them sparkle. And if you want to get a little more involved, we do have 3D furnishings that you can make, and we provide all the patterns, so you can see it on the table. Starting on my on the left here, we have the Ark of the Witness, and the cover actually, the lid of atonement actually comes off of it, so you can take that off. And did we put the 10 Commandments in there? I think so. Yeah, you get a little surprise. You get the witness that you get to put in there, and the pot of manna, and Aharon's rod that budded. Yeah. We also did the table of showbread, and you can see the bread on the table, the 12 loaves there. Yep. And although the altar of incense is not covered in Terumah, I put them all together because it showed a complete picture. So that's the altar of incense with the incense on there. And then we have the 7-branch menorah, also known as the lampstand, that you can make. And then we have the furnishings for the courtyard as well. And so we have the bronze basin, and then we have the altar, the bronze altar. So that's all the crafts and notebook pages that we have in our Terumah lessons. We have a point 1, as I said, which was the blueprints for the Mishkan furnishings, but we also have a point 2, which digs into the blueprints for the Mishkan coverings and the structure, which is everything we're going to show you in our lesson tonight. Now, I must say I'm a little bit bummed because the technical difficulties did sort themselves out to a degree, but Selena put so much work into making these beautiful transitions and animations, and I'll get to see it on my end, but you won't be able to see it because they couldn't do it on their end. But we're going to get the glitches out by next week, so you'll get to see all the fun things. And then next year, you'll get to see it, so stay tuned. All right. So are you guys ready to start? Ready? Who's answering me? Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so without further ado, here is Parsha Terumah, which is Shemot 25:1 through 27:19. All right, so I do want to explain. Okay, so we're still on the first slide. You're fine. Okay, so what does Terumah mean? It means a contribution or an offering, and it also means to take up. It comes from the Hebrew word leharim, which means to lift up. So this is all about giving a free will offering. Everyone that contributed to the tabernacle did this from the bottom of their heart. It wasn't mandatory, but just so you know, most of these things, if not all, came from what they took from the Egyptians. So maybe it wasn't so hard for them to give it up. But maybe it was. I don't know. But we do know that they did gather more than enough. And so tonight we're going to look at all the items that they gathered up to make this tabernacles, this dwelling place for our Creator, because He requested it. They didn't make it of their own accord. Elohim gave the blueprint to Moshe while he was on the mountain, so we're going to be looking at it. We're going to look at 15 items that were brought to make the dwelling place, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you can go to the next slide, please.
And Am I connected? Okay. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, that they take up a contribution for me. From everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take up my contribution."
Okay, hold on just a second. I have to look at my slides too. All right. Just so you know, the gold, the silver, and the bronze comes in. It's really cool, but that's all right. All right, so
And this is the contribution which you take up from them, gold and silver and bronze.
okay. So later on in Exodus, we're going to be given the amounts of each of these items. It's going to be in Exodus 38. So when we get to that Parsha, we'll give you the amounts for all of these metals that were given for the dwelling place. Next slide, please.
And blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine linen and goat's hair.
Okay, I actually don't even need to look at mine. I'll just look up at that screen. Okay, so are we back on? Okay, leave that one. All right, so we have the blue, the purple, and the scarlet material. So this material were all colors that detracted or warded off predators. I don't know if you knew that. So Yahweh does everything with a purpose. And so the red, the blue, and the purple were the colors that he chose. They were also very costly and very labor-intensive to make. For example, the blue, the tehelet, was made from a sea snail. It's also known as the color sea purple or biblical blue. The glands from the sea snail produce a purple color, but when it's left to expose to the sun, when it's exposed to the sun and it dries out, it becomes that beautiful blue that we know as tehelet. So if you've ever seen any of the men wearing the actual tehelet colored tzitzit, it's just a very different blue. Because when you have like the cotton or any manufactured tzitzit, it just doesn't seem to capture it 100%. And so that was the blue that they used. The purple also came from snails. So it would take a lot of snails to create this vast amounts of material that was used throughout the tabernacle. And this purple was actually more expensive than gold. So that's an interesting fact I looked up. The last color, scarlet, that is known as shani. Oh, the purple in Hebrew is argamon. All right, and so the scarlet is shani in Hebrew. It was obtained with much difficulty, and it's from a small scaled insect known as the kermes. So what they do is they attach to themselves to a host plant, and like the kermes oak, and it's in mountainous areas. And so when they do that, they create that color. And so collecting a gram of this can easily take 2 hours. So, so you would detach the insect from the tree with your fingernail. And the insects are round and they're smaller than a pea, so they're not big. All right, so that's the colors that we see in the tabernacle. We also have, of course, goat's hair from a goat, and the fine linen is a plant. It's from the flax plant, and it is actually 3 times stronger than cotton. All right, next slide, please.
And ram skins dyed red, and fine leather, and acacia wood.
Okay, so these are part of the coverings, the ram skins dyed red and the fine leather, but the acacia was just a very rampant tree that grew out in the wilderness, and it was a very gnarly tree, and it was strong and durable. It's more strong than hickory or oak, and it's water resistant, so that's why it was used, because a lot of the items that were made for the tabernacle had to withstand harsh climate, rain, of course. So that acacia wood is known as shittim. Next slide, please.
Oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense.
Okay, so the oil for the light was the olive oil that the Israelites brought. And that is told to us in Exodus 35, verse 8 and verse 14, and Exodus 39 and verse 37. And then the spices that you see there in the middle, they were used in the anointing oil. Some of them were used for the anointing oil, and some of them were used for the sweet incense. Now, we have a bonus this year in that Selena helped me, along with Vera, drawing more visuals. So we decided to add to the Kitisa Parsha, and we're going to show you all these visuals when we get to that Torah portion. So it's going to be exciting. So the anointing oil, of course, was used to anoint everything in the dwelling place, in the Mishkan, as well as to anoint the priesthood. So it was a special anointing oil that can only be used for them. You are not to replicate it. And the sweet incense was for the altar of incense, which actually is not even mentioned till the next Torah portion. So that'll be in Tetzaveh. But we will show you how the altar of incense was made. All right, next slide, please.
Shoham stones and stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate.
Okay, so we have those Shoham stones, those black ones up there at the top, and then all the other stones that were used to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. So these were all brought by rulers and wealthy men. And so they were used in, the Shoham stones were used, if you can look on the left, in the shoulder garment, and then the breastplate had all the 12 stones, including Shoham stone as well, which we'll dig into that when we learn about the priestly garments, and I believe that's next week? Yeah, next week. All right, next slide, please.
And they shall make me a set-apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst, according to all that I show you, the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of all its furnishings. Make it exactly so.
All right, and so there you see the inside of the dwelling place, and then you also see the courtyard with its furnishings and also the dwelling place with the covers there. So this is all the materials we just talked about are going to be used to make all of that. All right, next slide, please.
And they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high.
Okay, so we broke it down into U.S. measurements. You're welcome. So it was 3 3/4 feet long. So think about this. This isn't really big. I mean, you would think, okay, that's going to be huge. It's 2 1/4 feet wide and only 2 1/4 feet high. So not very tall box, right? And I love, this is a new visual. If you remember, we've not shown the acacia wood. So this is really cool that we got to show you that it started off being made of acacia wood. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall overlay it with clean gold. Inside and outside you shall overlay it. And you shall make on it a molding of gold all around. And you shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in its 4 corners, 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other side.
All right, so I can't circle anything, but great news is we labeled things for you, so it's like we knew. But so they just hammered this gold, and they made these sheets, and they covered up the ark. All right, except for the rings. The rings were made of pure gold. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to lift up the ark by them. The poles are in the rings of the ark, they are not taken from it.
Okay, so this would have been a really cool visual. She actually overlaid the acacia poles in gold, but just visualize it. It's beautiful. But so one pertinent informational point here is that the rings were never to have the poles taken out of them. They always had to be there. That's what Yahweh instructed. Okay, next slide, please.
And into the ark you shall put the witness which I give you.
Okay, so we see the witness inside the ark there. And then, of course, we showed you for the 3D craft, we showed you that we also had the pot of manna. That is actually talked about in Exodus 16 and verses 32 to 34, where Yahweh talks about putting that as a witness for them too, the pot of manna, because there was a thing that happened at that event, right? And they didn't listen. They ended up, some people gathering more than they should have on the days that they shouldn't have. And so it's kind of a witness for them. So that's why we have that word witness, and that pot of manna was a witness to them that they messed up, right? And then the same thing with Aharon's rod. That was also told to be put before the witness, and that's coming up in Numbers 17:10. Again, Aharon's rod. People were rebelling. They were like, we're leaders. And so again, a witness to them, to always keep us humble, to follow Yahweh's instruction. And remember the commandments that he gave us and teaching us how to live and to follow his word. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make a lid of atonement of clean gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them of beaten work at the 2 ends of the lid of atonement. And make 1 cherub at one end, and the other cherub at the other end. Make the cherubim from the lid of atonement at its 2 ends. And the cherubim shall be spreading out their wings above, covering the lid of atonement with their wings, with their faces toward each other. The faces of the cherubim turned toward the lid of atonement.
Okay, so for the lid of atonement, it was not made out of acacia wood. It was just made out of pure gold, and it was beaten from one piece. So can you imagine the craftsmanship? And that's why Yahweh had selected 2 men. You know, we'll learn about them later, but Salel and Aholiab, they were given the wisdom and the understanding and what's the talent to do the work, you know, because this was an amazing work. Okay, next slide, please.
And you shall put the lid of atonement on top of the ark, and put into the ark the witness which I give you. And I shall meet with you there, and from above the lid of atonement, from between the 2 cherubim which are on the ark of the witness, I shall speak to you all that which I command you concerning the children of Israel.
Okay, so we have this Ark of the Witness. Now, it was placed in the most set-apart place. It was put behind the inner veil, and so no one had access to it. Actually, the only time that room was entered was on the Day of Atonement by the high priest. So this amazing work that Yahweh had commanded was as a witness to them, but they never had a visual on it. They had to just remember it in their mind that that's why Yahweh wanted it made. And also, I think she had read it earlier, but it was made from a talent of, oh, no, that's the lampstand. We'll get there. Okay, going forward, next slide, next furnishing.
And you shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high.
Again, so we have the next furnishing, the table of showbread, that starts off being made of acacia wood, and it's only 2.25 feet high. So Just, imagine that's not really tall. And if you're a very tall man, that's a long way to bend. So here we go. We start off with the acacia wood. And next slide, please.
And you shall overlay it with clean gold, and shall make a molding of gold all around, and shall make for it a rim of a handbreadth all around, and shall make a gold molding for the rim all around. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 corners that are its 4 legs. The rings are close to the rim as holders for the poles to lift the table.
Okay, and so again, we've actually identified where the rim is, the molding, and the rings, so you can see all the parts of the table that we've actually drawn that. Next slide, please.
And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be lifted with them.
Okay, so the same thing as the Ark of the Witness. It had the 2 poles inserted into the 4 rings so that they could lift the table and easily move it whenever Yahweh had that cloud move. So they moved everything. Next slide, please.
And you shall make its dishes, and its ladles, and its jars, and its bowls for pouring. Make them of clean gold.
Okay, next slide, please.
And you shall put the showbread on the table before me continually.
Okay, so here we have the table of showbread with the actual showbread on it. The table of showbread was placed outside the inner veil. So you come inside the inner veil, there's that set-apart room, and the table of showbread was placed on the right side of the room, on the north side. And it had the 12 loaves that were replaced every day. They represented the 12 tribes of Israel. So every tribe was represented every day continually before Yahweh. So they were made with clear frankincense, and there were 6 in each row. And they were made with 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. And in Hebrew, the word for showbread is lechem hapanim. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make a lampstand of clean gold. The lampstand is made of beaten work. Its base and its shaft, its cups, its ornamental knobs and blossoms are from it. And 6 branches shall come out of its sides. 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. 3 cups made like almond flowers on one branch, with ornamental knob and blossom, and 3 cups made like almond flowers on the other branch, with ornamental knob and blossom, so for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. And on the lampstand itself are 4 cups, made like almond flowers, with ornamental knob and blossom, and a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. Their knobs and their branches are of the same, all of it one beaten work of clean gold. And you shall make 7 lamps for it, and they shall mount in lamps, so that they give light in front of it.
All right, there's a lot there, and I really wish you could have seen the transitions and the animations, the way she had everything come in, but I'm going to try to explain it. I can't highlight anything, but as you see there, the lampstand is numbered 1 through 7, so you have that middle shaft, that number 4, right? And so on the 3 branches on one side and the 3 branches on the other, the first visual is the cups for the branches. So you can see there are 3 cups on each of those 6 branches. So how many cups would there be? 6 times 3, 18. Okay, never mind. I'll do this myself. All right, so there's 18, and then there's 4 in the middle. 18 plus 4 is 22. Okay, so you have 22 cups total on this lampstand. And then you have the one knob on each of the 6 branches, but then the middle shaft had 4 knobs, so that would be a total of 10 knobs. And then the blossoms was like Aharon's rod that blossomed. It also had the 10 blossoms because there were 6 on the branches and then 4 on the middle shaft. And then there are 7 lamps that were furnished with the olive oil so that they could be lit every day. So Aharon would trim it in the morning and then light it at night. The cool thing about the lampstand is that they say it was made from a talent of clean gold. Does anybody know how much that weighs? It's like 75 pounds. That's pretty heavy. So it was about 75 pounds of clean gold. And so that was used to make the lampstand. Now, interesting is that there is no measurement given the scripture for that, but tradition says that it was 18 hand breadths, so that's like 4 feet, okay? So it wasn't that tall. All right, and then the Hebrew word for almond blossoms is shakhed. And so the interesting about looking up the definition of that is that it means watchfulness as Yahweh provides constant eyes over his people Israel. So everything he does is with a purpose. It's just our job to seek, to understand. All right, next slide, please.
And its snuffers and their trays are of clean gold. It is made of a talent of clean gold with all these utensils.
Okay, so again, that talent was 75 pounds, which nowadays that would be like $1 million. So that lampstand would be pretty hefty price. I found 2 interesting verses related to a talent. I thought I'd share them with you. So in 2 Samuel 12:30, King David had a fight with this king of Ammon, and he took the crown off his head, and it said that it weighed a talent. Can you imagine a crown that weighed 75 pounds? But it also had gems on it, too. I can't even imagine. I'd be on the ground. And then this is more of a serious verse, but in Revelation 16:31, it says that Yahweh's wrath will come down with hailstone that is a talent of weight. That is some heavy wrath from Yahweh. So let's just be found so doing, so we're not included in that wrath. So anyway, the lampstand was placed on the opposite side of the showbread. So when you enter the set-apart place, it was on your left side or the south side. And so, and then, of course, we just showed you here a snuffer and its tray that they used to trim the lamp. All right, next slide, please.
Okay, pretend the mountain's shaking.
Cool.
So see and do according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain.
All right, so this is obviously when Moshe was up on the mountain for 40 days. These are all the things that were shown to him, precise everything. There was a long conversation about how this was to be done, and Moshe took some really amazing mental notes. All right, so now we're going to move into chapter 26, and we're going to look at the coverings, the curtains, all of that was used for the dwelling place. Next slide, please.
And make the dwelling place with 10 curtains of fine woven linen, and blue and purple and scarlet material. Make them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. The length of each curtain is 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains having one measure. 5 curtains are joined to each other, and 5 curtains are joined to each other.
Okay, so in this slide, what we're showing is all the panels that were put together to make that first covering. There were 10 panels put together, and they had a seam down the middle, so it was 5 and 5. And the seam down the middle, we're going to show you how that was connected. But that gives us a measurement in U.S. measurements that it was 42 feet long and 60 feet wide, so that, you know, the width came over the sides of the dwelling place, and then, of course, the length came above it and toward the back. It didn't go over the front. It just stood on top and toward the back. And so that is the first covering. Next slide, please.
And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the end curtain on one set, and do the same on the edge of the end curtain of the second set. Make 50 loops in the one curtain, and make 50 loops on the edge of the end curtain of the second set, the loops being opposite to each other. And you shall make 50 hooks of gold, and shall join the curtains together with the hooks, and the dwelling place shall be one.
Okay, so the separation of the 5 and the 5 down that middle was the loops of blue. So there were 100 of them because there was one on each side. And then there were the 50 hooks of gold that connected them. So this made it easier to take apart and transport and carry. Okay, next slide, please.
And you shall make curtains of goat's hair. For a tent over the dwelling place, make 11 curtains. The length of each curtain is 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, one measure to the 11 curtains. And you shall join the 5 curtains by themselves, and the 6 curtains by themselves, and you shall double over the 6 curtains at the front of the tent.
Okay, so here we're looking at that second covering that was over the dwelling place. And so they added an extra panel, but it also was longer. The first panel was only 42 feet, and this one was 45 feet. And that's because the second one came over the first one and covered it so you couldn't see it at all. And it also was longer. There was an extra panel in the back so that it hung over the back longer. Okay, so and this was made from goat's hair. The first one was made from that red, blue, and purple material and the fine linen. And so, as you can see, a lot of that had to be contributed to make all of this. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain of the second set. And you shall make 50 bronze hooks, and put the hooks into the loops, and join the tent together, and it shall be one.
Okay, so same thing, this one was also joined. You had the first 5 joined to the last 6, but this time the hooks were made of bronze instead of gold. And it doesn't tell us what the loops were made out of, but I'm thinking it probably was made from goat's hair too. So next slide, please.
And the overlapping part of the rest of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the dwelling place, and a cubit on one side and a cubit on the other side of what remains of the length of the curtains of the tent is to hang over the sides of the dwelling place, on this side and on that side, to cover it.
Okay, so we're showing here the 2 different coverings. And what this is saying is that that second covering was longer and wider. It had 3 feet extra on each side as well as on the back. So those are your 2, but there's 2 more coverings that we're going to look at. Okay, all right, next slide, please.
And you shall make a covering of ram skins dyed red for the tent, and a covering of fine leather above that.
All right, so here, these are your all your 4 coverings. They all had their purpose. You can dig into that a little more, but since it's not mentioned in this Torah portion, I won't get into it. Maybe I will another Torah study. But that was your 4 coverings. Now we're going to look at the support for the dwelling place. How was that made? So next slide, please.
And for the dwelling place, you shall make the boards of acacia wood standing up. 10 cubits is the length of a board, and 1.5 cubits the width of each board. 2 tenons in each board for binding one to another. Do the same for all the boards of the dwelling place.
Okay, so we're going to look into all the boards that were made here, but just know that each board was 15 feet long, okay, and 2.25 feet wide, and each one had 2 tenons, and this was just brilliant by Yahweh. Of course, he's brilliant, but that helped to support the dwelling place so that it did not shake. It was immovable. It was the most amazing architectural piece. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make the boards for the dwelling place, 20 boards for the south side, and make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the dwelling place, on the north side, 20 boards, and their 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under each of the boards.
Okay, so here we're representing the north and the south side. Obviously, they matched each other. So there were 20 boards for both sides, and since each board had 2 tenons, there were also the 2 sockets under each of the tenons so that that could be rested into it and keep the dwelling place from moving. All right, next slide, please.
And for the extreme parts of the dwelling place, westward, make 6 boards, and make 2 boards for the 2 back corners of the dwelling place. And they are double beneath, and similarly, they are complete to the top, to the 1 ring. So it is for both of them. They are for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under the 1 board, and 2 sockets under the other board.
Okay, so the difference on the west side is that the 2 end boards had an extra board. That's why you ended up with the 8 boards. So you started off with the 6, but then you have 2 that were added for strength, and then obviously you had to have 2 more sockets that go underneath those boards. So that's how you get your total of 8 boards and 16 sockets. All right, so that was the west side of the dwelling place. Next slide, please.
And you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards on the side of the dwelling place for the extreme parts westward, with the middle bar in the midst of the boards going through from end to end.
Okay, so now we're looking at how were those boards supported. They had these rings of gold that you can see in the picture there, but also they had these bars that were made of acacia wood that the top and the bottom had a separation in them, but the middle bar went completely through. And so we're depicting that here for you so that you can see that the middle bar is not, there's no separation in it. But all of the boards started off as acacia wood. Next slide, please.
And overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and overlay the bars with gold.
Okay, this was a really cool slide too. It started off as acacia wood, and she was going to have that gold come in. You would have been totally impressed, but I'm just so glad that we're able to show this to you. So this is what it looked like after it was overlaid with the gold. Of course, all the rings started off as gold. All right, so let's see, I wanted to talk about that. Okay, so a definite feature of the dwelling place was its portability. The poles were to carry. The roof is cloth and skins joined by hooks and clasps. The walls are easily assembled and disassembled. The silver sockets were like metal feet to secure the boards and raise them up from the ground, preserving everything from moisture. So it allowed for easy setup, assembly, and taking down disassembly. So that is exactly like how you would think Yahweh would be, right? He thinks of everything. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall raise up the dwelling place according to its pattern which you were shown on the mountain.
Okay, so again, this is an emphasis. He said this once before in this Torah portion. This is an emphasis on how important it was to build a dwelling place to the exact specifications without any alterations, modifications, additions, subtractions, like the word. Don't add or take away from it. All right, so now we're going to be going into the veils. Next slide, please.
And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine woven linen, the work of a skilled workman, made with cherubim. And you shall put it on the 4 columns of acacia wood overlaid with gold, their hooks of gold upon 4 sockets of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the hooks, and shall bring the ark of the witness there behind the veil. And the veil shall make a separation for you between the set apart and the most set apart place. And you shall put the lid of atonement upon the ark of the witness in the most set apart place.
Okay, so I'm sorry I couldn't circle any of this for you, but hopefully you were able to follow it. So here we're showing the inner veil, the front side as well as the back side of it. We also showed you one of the columns. There were 4 gold columns with 4 sockets of silver. If you look at that dwelling place cutout, it's that inner veil, of course. And so behind the inner veil is where the Ark of the Witness was placed. And so it had the cherubim on it as well. So it was made with the same material as the first covering and also the outer veil. Now, the Hebrew word for veil is paroket. And this was the partition between the set-apart place and the most set-apart place. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the dwelling place toward the south, and put the table on the north side. And you shall make a covering for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine woven linen made by a weaver. And you shall make for the covering 5 columns of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, their hooks of gold, and you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them.
Okay, so this one actually has 5 gold columns instead of 4, and the sockets are made of bronze, just like everything in the courtyard, because this was closest to the courtyard, so it matches the courtyard's sockets there. And as you can see here, that veil led into the set-apart place where 3 of the furnishings were placed. And if you look in the cutout there, we haven't gotten into the altar of incense. We'll discuss that next week. But this veil was the entrance to going into the set-apart place where the priest would go in there to tend the lamps and to replace the showbread. And then we'll talk about the incense next week. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar is square, and its height 3 cubits.
Okay, so another furnishing that starts off as acacia wood is the bronze altar. It will become bronze. The Hebrew word for altar is mizbeach, and this basically was a square. Okay, so its height was 4.5 feet. Again, not very tall. So it made it easier to lift up those animals and get them on there. So this is our first out courtyard furnishing that we're digging into. Next slide, please.
And you shall make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns are of the same, and you shall overlay it with bronze. And you shall make its pots to receive its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its forks, and its fire holders. Make all its utensils of bronze. And you shall make a grating for it, a bronze network, and shall make on the network 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners, and shall put it under the rim of the altar beneath, so that the network is halfway up the altar.
Okay, so we have that grating that was used to catch the drippings and all that, but it was a removable grating, so it's kind of like a grill. And here we're also showing you all the utensils that were made out of bronze. And bronze itself is a less precious metal than silver or gold, but it's very sturdy, and it's really ornate as well. So this is all the items that were used when they were doing the sacrifices. All right, next slide, please.
And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and shall overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put in the rings, and the poles shall be on the 2 sides of the altar for lifting it. Make it hollow with boards. As it was shown to you on the mountain, so they are to make it.
Okay, so because it started off as acacia wood, it was so much lighter. And it was also hollow, so it wasn't heavy to carry. I'm sure it wasn't very light either, but it could have been much heavier, but Abba thinks of everything. And so he had it just overlaid with bronze. So again, the bronze basin, the wash basin, is not going to be mentioned in this Torah portion. They put it in a separate Torah portion, which is fine, and we'll dig into that next time. Yeah, I guess that's all I'm going to say about this. We'll move on to now the courtyard sides, the screens and the columns. Next slide, please.
And you shall make the courtyard of the dwelling place. For the south side, screens for the courtyard made of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and its 20 columns, and their 20 sockets of bronze, the hooks of the columns, and their bands of silver. And so for the north side in length, screens 100 cubits long, with its 20 columns, and their 20 sockets of bronze, and the hooks of the columns, and their bands of silver.
Okay, so again, the north and the south side matched each other in length and all that. So it is 150 feet long. So it's pretty long. And all the screens were made of linen on both sides. But I think it's just really beautiful because the top is silver, so it kind of stands out. But also the height is 7.5 feet, so your average person could not just casually look into it. You'd have to be really above average to even be able to look in there and see what was going on. All right, next slide, please.
And the width of the courtyard on the west side, screens of 50 cubits, with their 10 columns and their 10 sockets.
Okay, so the west side also had only linen screens, and it was 75 feet wide. Okay, so it's half the width of the length. All right, next slide, please.
And the width of the courtyard on the east side, 50 cubits, and the screens on one side of the gate, 15 cubits, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And on the other side, screens of 15 cubits, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets.
Okay, So this is the whole complete east side that we're showing here. We're showing the screens that are on both sides of that east gate. We'll learn about that in the next few verses. But the whole width of it was 75 feet long. Obviously, it's going to match the west side's width as well. And there were 3 columns on the screens and 4 columns on the gate. So just fun facts. Next slide, please.
And for the gate of the courtyard, a covering 20 cubits long, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, made by a weaver, 4 columns and 4 sockets.
Okay, so that's the differentiation, is that the gate was actually made out of the same material as the first covering, and also it was very beautiful, you know. And there was only one way in and out of this courtyard. That was the only way to enter, and the only way to exit is through this east gate. And it was 30 feet wide. And this is where the offerer would bring his offering to the priest. All right, so to conclude the courtyard, next slide, please.
All the columns around the courtyard have bands of silver, their hooks silver, and their sockets bronze.
Okay, so here's your visuals for that. And then I think the next one's our last slide. Last slide, please.
The length of the courtyard is 100 cubits, and the width 50 by 50, and the height 5 cubits, woven of fine linen thread, and its sockets of bronze. All the utensils of the dwelling place, for all its service, all its pegs, and all the pegs of the courtyard are bronze.
Okay, so here we're just listing the items that were made from the bronze material. And so you can see all the utensils, the columns, the bronze sockets, even the pegs were made from bronze. And so the total courtyard measurements, it's 150 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 7.5 feet tall. So that is Parsha Terumah. We hope you have enjoyed our slideshow presentation tonight. Thank you. So Rabbi's going to come up if you have any questions, but he'll give his thoughts on this first. Thank you.
Not easy to get these things reset. Excellent job, Rebbetzin and Selena. All right, awesome. And I'm gonna be flying here without my headset, which is fine. All right, so Terumah offering. Did you guys enjoy that? Whoa, what in the world is going on there? Oh, there we go. That was just so that you wouldn't feel bad when they were too zoomed in on your face. They just zoomed in on I don't know what. So. It was frightening, though. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Okay. Phones, make sure they're silent. All right. So excellent job. I hope you guys learned a lot about the tabernacle. It was fantastic, right? And we're just getting started with all of that, okay? So there's a lot to do there. And, hopefully you got to see the level of research that was done, as far as the materials and how they were put on and how they got the colors and how that all, everything was just an amazing presentation. Fantastic job, right? Also, for you that are wondering about our youth program, this is the kind of stuff my wife expects the youth to be able to learn and handle. She aims high, okay? So I wonder where she got that idea of leveling them up from. You know, she's always aiming high with the children. And you know what? They rise to that. I mean, they do a great job with that, all right? Okay, so here we go. Terumah. So since it's only 9 o'clock, and by the way, some of the presentations they're going to have will not be this quick, but tonight's was pretty quick. So let's start off a little bit in chapter 25. Because they went into sort of the mechanics of this thing. I'm going to kind of dig into, as we always do, what are we going to get out of this about us, right? So chapter 25. Now, so this is really important. Now, I know this is not a gratuitous opportunity for a ministry to talk about offerings, okay? And people giving, but it does come up in here, and it's very interesting how things go about. So Yahweh says to Moshe, by the way, let this be if you're here, if you're walking in any level of this walk, then you believe all of this comes down from him, okay? Not from Moshe, not from Rabbi Steve, not by anybody in between Moshe and me. There's been millions of people between us. It comes from Yahweh. And Yahweh says, here. Now, this is not an instruction to us right this second. It's just giving an example. He says, speak to the children of Israel that they take up a contribution for me. Now, that's all contributions are always for him. Does he need your money? No. Is he actually physically going to spend your money? No. But is he going to make use of it? Yes. Okay? He says, take up a contribution for me. From everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take a contribution. So this is a voluntary, inspired contribution, that people are moved in their hearts to do this. This is not everybody has to give this or this or this. Like there was a point where we will find going in, forward, we'll see that there's a giving of a half shekel, okay, that everybody had to give. That's coming later, right? But what we have here is, this is something we said, you know what? Just throw it out there and let's see whose hearts are moved. Just throw it out there and let's see everyone whose heart is moved, okay? And this is the contribution which you're going to take up from them. Gold and silver and bronze and all these different things that they're going to use to make the tabernacle, okay? Now, I suppose we can look at this from a point of view of today, right? Today, what does Yah need? Well, this is to build a house for him. For what purpose? Did he need a house? No, okay? I mean, he occupies all existence. But there was a purpose to this building, or this tent that we have being built here in the wilderness, okay? That eventually David wanted to build a building, and then Solomon built the building, okay? And so what we have here is he has a plan for usage of something to the benefit of the people. All of the functionality of the tabernacle will be to the people's benefit. Can we all understand that? Does Yah need sacrifices? No. Does he need, the lampstand or the altar or the laver or the altar of incense? I mean, he doesn't need any of these things. They all serve purposes of instruction to his people. Okay? So they're there to benefit and bless the people. So what can we look at today? Well, today we can look at, when you are giving, if your heart is moved. Now remember, this is not talking about tithing. Tithing is something separately instructed. This is above and beyond. Not instead of, not in replacement of. This is above and beyond. That's where we can give the funds that Yah can inspire used for us to use them to bless the body. Okay, we're building a new building, and that will bless the body. We buy equipment, it blesses the body so that we can broadcast, okay? Some of the equipment didn't work so perfectly tonight the way we wanted to broadcast, so we're going to have to get different equipment and just make sure that that works better next time. Okay, but these are the kinds of things that those whose hearts are moved help to make happen. We have a few buildings around the world that we work with. We have places in the world that can't afford to rent a space for Passover or Sukkot, and we provide the funding for that, right? I mean, that funding, though, when I say we provide, I don't mean me. We, those whose hearts are moved, and those who also whose hearts are submissive to the tithing in the first place, right? Okay? So I think it's important that I think all of this is all based on whose hearts are moved. Okay? It's like, don't take up a contribution from those whose hearts aren't moved. And I'll tell all of you there, if you got an issue with any of this stuff, please don't give. Because I don't think it's going to be of any use and value for you to give out of wrong mindset, wrong heart. You know. And we don't need anything from you. He wants those who are inspired to support whatever he wants to do. And if it's not you, he'll find somebody else. You know, do you remember the conversation between Mordecai and Esther? He's like, you know, Esther, this is your opportunity. But you know what? If you don't take it, somebody else will. He'll provide somebody with the opportunity, as they say, at such a time as this, you know? And so where is your heart in all of this? You know what's really funny is the people who have plenty of funds struggle more than the people who have nothing and they want to give. It's an amazing thing to watch. I watch people literally, I had to fight with some people telling them that they did not need to give their disability, Social Security, as a tithe. But they were so angry because they wanted to tithe. I said, fine, make a 10% offering. It's not a tithe. You don't tithe on a benevolence from the government. But the thing is, the heart was there, okay? Person was somewhat autistic too, so it was a little bit, intense because, once they get there, I'm not picking on them. I work with a lot of handicapped people. They can get really intense. But the heart was there. But I need to tithe. But you don't have anything that's tithable. Fine, give an offering, okay? And they were so happy just to do that, but they still insisted on calling it a tithe. Well, some arguments you can't win. But then I watch other people that I know make plenty who put nothing. And I don't judge any of that. Abba's still working with a heart problem. Okay, and that's where the question is. That's why I love the wording of this when it says, take up an offering, tell the children, I only want, now this is, imagine that God himself tells the leader, remember, they were interacting with him almost directly here at this point, right? They just had Sinai only, 5 chapters ago. Okay, so, and he says, tell them, anybody whose heart's moved to doing the things for me, we're going to see whose hearts are moved. I thought that was pretty cool. Okay? Now, and we get to verses 3-7. The contribution was for what? Listen, I'm not going to list all the things here because it doesn't matter. What matters, as far as to today, what it matters is the contribution was for that which was needed to complete the task. Okay? So it wasn't just give anything. He says, I'm going to need these materials. Now, of course, he said it to them because they didn't just have people like today who work generally in hourly wage sort of jobs where they don't actually have things like cloth that they work with or crops that they work with or animals where they'd have the skins to work with. We just don't do that in general, right? I mean, there are people that do, but it's not a high percentage. They do it in huge bulk so that the rest of us don't have to do that, right? So there are farmers out there, but those farmers have thousands of acres that they farm, just one farming group, okay, as opposed to having 1,000 farmers doing 1 acre each, okay? So it's most of us don't do that kind of stuff. So we do our contribution with that which can be converted into whatever is needed, okay? As a matter of fact, you want to be helpful? Put down somewhere on your donation, on your check, on your whatever it is, to be used as needed. Because even if you put that on a specific thing, like let's say you're giving a third tithe, okay? Put to be used as needed. Now, generally, actually exclusively up to this point, it's only been used for third tithe issues. And if there's not enough, we take it from the general fund to use that. But anything that you put in, say, as needed. That gives us the freedom to use it as needed. Of course, if you don't trust us, then don't even give us anything in the first place. Why would you give? You don't trust that Abba's giving you that instruction and where the place to give it. Now, they had that problem with Moses, too. Not yet. We'll see Korach and Dathan and Aviram and these guys all having issues with Moses. You got a little racket going on here, you and your brother, and, you got collecting all this stuff. People still say that today about whoever the ministry is. And it's not unusual. It's still today the same issues. All right, so then we get to verses 8 and 9. It says, make me a set-apart place and follow the pattern shown on the mountain exactly. So this is where we get the teaching called follow the pattern exactly. Okay? So that comes from, that's 25:9, okay? According to all that I showed you, the pattern of the dwelling place, the pattern of all its furnishings, make it exactly so. When we started ministry, this goes back to like 1999 or something like that. We realized very quickly that there was the congregation, and then there was, we'll call it the ministry part, the part that was outside and extended further than the local congregation. Okay? And you know what we called it? Follow the pattern ministries. Because it was based on this verse, okay, that's where that teaching came from. So that's an old teaching. I know I did it more recently for you guys, so it's still old. Might need to redo it someday. But the thing is, originally it was done probably around 1999, 2000. It's an old teaching, okay? And then I linked it to 1 Corinthians where it says, do you not know that you, in chapter 6, right? 1 Corinthians 6, 19, 20, something like that. Do you not know that you are the dwelling place? So if we're building the dwelling place exactly according to the pattern shown to Moses, shouldn't we be doing that with ourselves if we're supposed to be the dwelling place? Okay? And that means trusting him and teaching us how to act in terms of our interaction with each other and our interaction with him, right? All right, so I have it in my notes here, 1 Corinthians 6:19, right? Okay, let's see. Then we have in chapter 25, and it says the same thing in verse 40, I think, too. I have that written down here. Right? It says, see and do according to the pattern which I showed you on the mountain. Which, by the way, that's why I believe the tablets, by the way, which are written on both sides, not like you see in the movies or in some little religious store or whatever, where there's just 5 on one tablet, 5 on the other, nothing written on the other side. I think the blueprints for the tabernacle were right there. I think he showed him the pattern, and the blueprints for what he was going to make was right there on the tablets. So while my wife and Selena and her team struggled to make sure how everything was supposed to actually play out, Moses had blueprints, so he had an advantage on you. Okay? I think he had blueprints. I think it wasn't just... Now, a lot of the certain Christian groups say, oh, he just was able to see, and he was shown what it all looked like because the tabernacle in heavens is the, this is just a shadow of that. I think he was given blueprints. Yeah, it's very specific and detailed on what he wanted, and I think he said, look, this is exactly what I want. Okay? Now, you don't have to agree with that. I'm literally making that up. It's my guess. When I say I'm making it up, meaning it's just my guess. Okay? It's the way I feel it is. Whether it's right or not, I don't know. All right. Now, we get to verse 16. It says, and into the ark you're going to put the witness which I give you. And so, again, if we are the tabernacle, if we're the dwelling place, into the ark, which would be where? Where was the ark put? In the Holy of Holies, in the middle of the tabernacle, right? It was the centerpiece. Well, what's in the centerpiece here? Your heart. What's he tell us? You heard this in the Heart of the Matter teaching over and over again. Lay up my laws, my word, my commandments, my instructions, my Torah in your heart. So the ark, which had the commandments, was supposed to be laid up in our heart. It's supposed to be also at the centerpiece of all of this. It says you're going to then put the witness in the ark, and then on top of it, you're going to put a lid of atonement, verse 17, chapter 25, 17, right? So you're going to put a lid of atonement, which again, atonement, having the idea of being at one with, something that makes you at one with, and it was made out of what? Not gold, pure gold, okay? Not just gold, pure gold. Because to be at one we'd have to go through the purifying process, okay? So the dross has to be burned away, right? So you purify the gold. This is the baptism of fire teaching, right? Go back and listen to that. Not about speaking in tongues or some other thing. It's about the trials that will test us. It's the fire we go through that helps to purify us into the pure gold. Okay? So that's important. All right. And of course, 18 through 20, you're going to make 2 cherubim. By the way, for all you Christians out there, the cherub is not a real word in Hebrew. There's no ch sound, okay? It's a k sound. It's cherubim, okay? It's cherubim, really, okay? So it's cherubim. Okay, so you shall make 2 of gold and make them of beaten work at the 2 ends of the lid of atonement. Okay, so you're going to make 1 at each end, spreading out their wings, covering the lid of atonement, facing each other, right? She talked about that. And then, of course, we know that in Genesis 3, he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, the flaming sword, turning each way to guard the way to the tree of life. So there's a kind of linkage to that, right? Okay, there's a linkage to that. I got to watch moving my hands and knocking the mic all over the place. You know, Jews, Italians, certain cultures, we just speak with our hands. All right. All right, now, so you're going to place the lid of atonement on the top of the ark, that's 25:21, and put the ark of the witness, and put into the ark the witness that I give you. The ark is then covered by atonement. The witness Torah is placed in the ark, okay? Then he says that I'm going to meet with you there from above the lid of atonement between the 2 cherubim, which are on the ark of witness. I'm going to speak to you that which I command you concerning the children of Israel. So what is this telling us? Yahweh meets with the anointed appointed above or over a foundation or base of atonement. Okay? Yahweh meets with the anointed appointed above, over, like a foundation or base of atonement, right? The ark, okay, with the covenant commandments and witnesses, the lid of atonement, the anointed appointed, and Yahweh. Okay, so these are all parts of that element there. Now from there, guarded by the cherubim, Yahweh speaks to the anointed appointed all that he commands concerning the children of Israel. It'd be nice if this worked this way today, because then I wouldn't have to wonder if what I'm saying is right, and you should be able to trust what I tell you. Of course, they didn't trust Moses all the time either, so that's why I say should. So it would be kind of nice if it still worked that way. We don't have the ark, we don't have the tabernacle, we don't have any of these things right now. All right. And then, of course, in 26:34, it says you should put the lid of atonement upon the ark and of the witness in the most set-apart place. Okay? So, now, I put a little note to myself. And this is where I'm going to kind of finish, and then we can kind of take some questions. Here's the thing. I want you to notice the level of detail, okay, that is given by Yahweh as to how this building, this tent of meeting, this Mishkan is to be made and look. Okay? I mean, he didn't just say, look, put a fence around a tent. I mean, he could have said something like that. Make it, like so many square feet or whatever, cubits, okay? I mean, down to every bolt, latch, covering, hook, anything. I mean, every detail, what material was made out of, how it was attached, exactly the length and the size and the width and the height, the breadth and everything. I mean, the detail is incredible, okay? So I want to ask this question. What does that tell us about how Yahweh views the details on how his dwelling place today should be built? I mean, do details matter? I've got a lot of people saying, well, I keep Shabbat. Sort of. Look, I don't want to pick on our brothers and sisters that are still struggling with what they've been shown in Christianity, but, details matter. The Sabbath is not Sunday. Oh, well, they moved it. Well, who's they? See, to me, authority works a certain way, okay? So if Yahweh said it, then the only one who can change it would be Yahweh. That's the way authority works, okay? All right? So you can't, like I'll give you an example, like just in our country. We'll take a country. Can a state change a federal law? No. They can appeal to the federal legislators to change the federal law, but they can't just change the federal law. It's a federal law. Okay, there's structure and authority. See, this gets messed with all the way down to the simple thing that we call the unit called a family. Dad said A, and then people want to ask mom to change that. And moms never do that. You make them go to dad. Okay? Because mom should not be changing what dad said. Dad shouldn't be changing what mom said either. Okay? If dad wants to deal with what mom said, dad goes to mom. Dad doesn't do anything to tell the children, I'll just forget what your mother said. Okay? I'm in charge, you do what I said. No. These things should be dealt with in terms of proper structural integrity, we'll call it. All right? So details matter. Did anybody from Moses down to those, Betzalel and Eliab and all these guys, did those guys have any authority to change anything there in the blueprints? Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay? And it was actually their job to make sure everything was done exactly according to the pattern, right? So let's be really careful about, these things that we do and think like, well, details don't matter. Well, they do matter. They matter to him a lot. If he said it. Now, of course, we can argue about details that he's allowed to, I don't know what the word is, get lost. Okay? Like, we don't really know. I'm going to say just straightforward. We really don't know exactly how the calendar is supposed to be done. Okay, we can make all educated guesses we want. We just don't know. That's not the thing like saying we don't know when Shabbat is. That we should know. People are like, well, how do you know? Very simple. Did Messiah keep Shabbat right? Absolutely. Did he ever correct the Jewish people for keeping it wrong? Never. Have the Jews changed how they kept it since Messiah? No. Case closed. Because a lot of people go, well, there's this other type of Sabbath thing, and we can go back to Genesis. You don't have to go back to Genesis. You only got to go back 2,000 years, which, by the way, you have a lot of documentation about what's happened over the last 2,000 years. A lot of people documented everything that's happened, and you can see it there. Nobody has changed the Sabbath. Well, that's not true. The Catholic Church did. The Jews haven't changed the Sabbath. Okay, because I love the way people want to make their lunar calendar this and this other one that and changing the Shabbat to, and they want to go back to some other verse somewhere else. I said, we don't have to go back that far. One genius, he just really was making stuff up. I mean, he said, well, Yeshua's tradition was to keep it with his Jewish brothers, but then he would go off in the woods and keep it on the right day himself. I said, where's that verse? Now you're just making stuff up. And I might not have used the word stuff. I was like, seriously? You're just making stuff up. Let's not make stuff up. Yeshua kept the Sabbath, it says, as was his tradition with his Jewish brothers. And he would go to the synagogue with them, and there's zero evidence that they have changed Saturday from where it was. Okay? Matter of fact, there's lots of evidence that they died because they wouldn't change it. Over and over and over again. Matter of fact, there's lots of evidence that that's why the Catholic Church created a Sunday switch. Because the Jews were keeping Saturday. All right, simple thing. So details matter. When he says don't eat a pig, it's not a really complicated detail. Don't eat a pig. He says don't eat shellfish. So don't eat shellfish. I mean, it's not that tough, but details. See, a lot of people are like, You think it's just, I just got to be nice to people. That is part of it. I mean, we got to be nice to people. I mean, he says love your neighbor. But he also tells you, like, what love looks like. Details matter, okay? I could see this like being pulled out somewhere. Details matter, okay? Because they do, and you can't just take it so lightly, and you can't just, this whole thing here, the creator of the universe gave meticulous, not just meticulous details. We're going to go over this multiple times, instructions on how to build it. Then we're going to see them building it. Then we're going to have a review of actually after they built it. So some of you are going to be like, I can't believe I'm reading all about these things and how many poles and how many knobs and how many this and how many that. But it should impress you that he gave the detail. Why did he do all that? Because he really cared that much about what this thing looked like? I don't think so. I think he wanted to see if the people could follow directions. You understand? There was nothing magical about the way he wanted it designed, okay? Wasn't anything amazing about the color patterns and whatever he wanted. He just wanted what he wanted to project a certain image, but also he wanted to say, will you follow my directions? Okay? Will you do things exactly according to what I said? It's a good test, to see if they can do that. My father was one of the early computer guys, all right? And he would teach a class, an introduction to computer programming. This is before we had any of the technology we have now. I mean, computers were, would take up a whole room to do less than what your phone would ever think of being able to do, right? I mean, like nothing. But you'd have to write code to program whatever task you wanted. Like just to get something to print out the word on a piece of paper, print out the word hello. You have to write line and line and line and line of code so that each dot would be printed on this thing. See, now we type stuff in to like a Word document and we print it and there it is. Well, there's a lot of code behind all that, all right? A lot of code. And one of the things he would do is he'd take the class and hand them a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper it would say, step 1, read everything on the paper. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this, okay? And one of them would be like, write your name in the upper right-hand corner. The other one would be stand up and say, I'm at step 47. Another one would be to do, and then the last step says, now that you've read the whole thing, just put your name on the left-hand corner. They weren't supposed to do any of the other things. Step 1 was read the whole thing first. And meanwhile, people standing up and stepping down and doing this and whatever, and writing all over the paper and doing. Step 1 was read the whole thing first. There's something about the way it was worded that said, don't do anything, just read the whole thing. Read it. Because the reason is that a computer is only going to do exactly what you tell it. Okay? If it says read the whole thing first, the computer's just going to read the whole thing first. But we don't follow directions so good, do we? Details matter. Now, some of you don't take this to other pendulum swings, right? That doesn't mean that details that we don't actually have specificity about, that we're not really clear on, need to be argued with because, oh my gosh, if we get it wrong, we're all going to burn or something, okay? Because that's the way people get about their calendars and these other things, that he's left on purpose with this lack of clarity, we'll call it, or whatever, okay? He's allowed, because he wants to see how we handle that. There are things he's allowed us to have to make. I call it wilderness wisdom decisions. That's what I called it in the very first MTOI meeting, with the leadership meeting that we had. We had to deal with the first thing that we had to deal with, which was the calendar. And when I did the teaching on making the calendar decision, I called it a wilderness wisdom decision. We're in the wilderness. What wisdom dictates this? How do we handle this decision with wisdom? What's the wisdom answer here? Okay? Because we don't have, just like when they were coming out of Egypt, he had to reset their calendar. Now, we know Hillel gave us the one we have now for the dispersion. We also know that it doesn't line up perfectly with new moons or anything like that. It's amazingly close and accurate a lot of the time. I mean, incredible considering how long ago it was created. And we know there's all kinds of issues with every calendar I've ever seen. What I'm just saying is, details matter. The ones that he says specifically, let's make sure we're doing those. The ones that he doesn't, let's do the best we can with a wilderness wisdom decision. And how do you know how to do that? I would say find an anointed appointed and let them make the decision. That's kind of why they're there, because that's the kind of stuff that would fall into what we all often point to as a Deuteronomy 17 type of situation. When a situation arises and you're not really sure what to do, you go find the leadership that's anointed and say, okay, it's on you guys. We don't know what to do. Okay? Of course, it takes a little humility for you first to admit you don't know what to do. That's part of the problem is you guys are, I know what to do. You guys are all wrong. I'm right. And then we got the mess that we have. Okay, so let's be careful not to go there. All right, let's not go there. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, and we'll probably keep mentioning this as we go through this whole tabernacle thing. It's incredible the amount of detail and how serious is about getting it. I mean, the measurements are down to the whatever. I mean, the detail is incredible, okay? Size, shape, color, numbers, everything, okay? Thicknesses, whatever. I mean, everything's there. Everything's there, okay? All right, so I hope that was helpful, everyone. We will take some questions. They're not going to be questions about the tabernacle. I'm not making Rebbitzin come up here and answer your questions. Okay? Everything she said is, that's it. What you got is what you got, and she'll say more because she's doing this for the next couple of weeks, okay, as we continue through it. So there will be more to that, and if you really want more detail, go look at the MTOI program. It's all in there, okay? But I will take care of if you have any questions about what I said and the other detail that's in this Torah portion, chapter 25, 1 to 27, 19. So if you have a comment or question, you're welcome to come up now. Okay?
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Rabbi, I have a question about when you were talking initially about the all of it is based on whose hearts are moved,
Yes.
right? So my question is about emotion, right? Because when I think about heart, I'm like, okay, so my heart is moved because I want to please him, but there has to be some emotion behind that, right? Otherwise, it's just, it's law out of love for him, I suppose. Is that what's when you say heart, motivation, love? What help me with that?
Well, look, it's like when he says he loves a cheerful giver. He wants your attitude. So when you want to please him, are you wanting to please him for some personal gain or because it makes you overjoyed, it makes you filled with joy to please him? Okay? So is it a cheerful and joyful heart that you use to go and make the effort to please him? Okay? I love to use this as an example because I've had the opportunity to go on a few cruise ships, okay? And I don't know what it's like in other countries, but I'll tell you what, here in the States, it's almost a shocking pleasure to have somebody serve you with that kind of a heart. If you go to a restaurant or something or show up at a front desk somewhere and have them actually look like it's their pleasure to serve you, okay? But yet you go on a cruise ship and you meet people from other parts of the world, and I don't know if it's phony at all. It never seems any phoniness to me. Some of them they can convey that it truly is their pleasure to be that, whatever they are being for you, whether it's helping you with your room or serving you at the bar or serving food at the restaurant or whatever they're doing, they are serving with that cheerful, joyful heart. They don't look like they're like, oh, I can't wait for my shift to end. And if you ask them to do something, they look like, oh, they're like, oh, absolutely, no problem, my pleasure to help you. And this is what Yah's looking for. He's looking for people like that. Yah says, I want you to do this. You're like, oh, absolutely, I can't wait to do what you said. I'm excited to do what you said. So the same thing with this offering thing or tithing or any of that stuff. If you're giving and crying as you're writing the check, and it's not tears of joy, and if it's hard for you to pull it out of the checkbook, you're not in the right attitude. Okay? And the same thing with Shabbat or any other, eating right. I mean, you sit there going, oh, I hate looking at boxes and seeing if this is clean or not. And I hate worrying about what's in my food, or I'm so mad that I can't eat this thing that I like to eat that's not clean. And your attitude is a big deal. Okay? Getting that attitude right is a big deal. Deuteronomy 8:2, step 1 is he lets you through all this wilderness stuff to humble you. Okay? Humbling is about recognizing I'm wrong, he's right. I mean, that's really what it is. Okay? Are you humble enough to recognize he's right in any area where you're in conflict? He's right. And you need to get in line with that without grumbling and whining and complaining and all that other stuff. We're told in some of the verses, do all things without complaining and grumbling. Yet we do that all the time, right? Attitude is a big, big deal. He doesn't want, can we all agree that part of the reason why those got left in the desert, in the wilderness, right here, this group of people, was because their attitude was wrong? That they probably had the mechanics down pretty good. You see that going through this journey between Sinai and eventually into the land 40 years later. It doesn't pick on them too much for the mechanics. It's not like he said, well, you guys just keep messing up the mechanics. But their attitude was wrong. Their heart and their heads were not right. Philippians 2, let this mind be in you. Okay? The attitude of Messiah, right? It's a big, big, big part of this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you clarifying that, because I know, you've also referred to some examples in the past, previous walks where, people are getting their offering boxes and they're trying to get people to make, contribution, and they appeal to that emotion, because it's not really about emotion. It's about your attitude and your willingness to submit and to be humble and to really do as much.
So she's talking about, the places that pass the push key around, or they come around with the offering plate, or they'll say, everybody come on up, and they have the box in the front of the room, and then everybody gets to watch people get up or not go to the box, and that kind of thing. We're not here to pressure you, embarrass you, shame you. We have a box in the back of the room. People use it or they don't. Mostly they don't, because they use the app whenever they use the app, and we don't, But it's not about that, which is why, we never, take up a formal offering. Okay, we never say we're taking up a formal offering. Okay? I mean, there's a funny story about that I could tell about how I learned that lesson, but we just don't do it. Okay, we don't do it. We were at a Sukkot, and somebody had talked me into doing a formal offering, which we'd never done before. I said, fine, we'll go ahead and do one. And we did. And there was like 200 people at the Sukkot, and there wasn't even barely $200 in the box. So I guess it really wasn't inspiring very many people to give anything, okay? I said, okay, Abba, I get it. We're not going to do that ever again. And so I announced that to everybody. We're not doing that again. The box is there. Anybody wants to use it. And the next time I opened it up, there was how like the bank puts a tape around a stack of bills, right? There was a stack of 20s wrapped in that tape that didn't fit through the slot, but it was in the box with the tape around it. I said, you don't have to scream. I told you I got it. He just wanted to get my attention, okay? But I'm telling you, it would not have gone in the box. Not still in the tape, okay? But yet it was there, laying nice and pretty on the top of there was a lot more in there too, but it was just laying there right on, I don't remember how much it was, but it was and it was 20s. Just so you know, it wasn't like one, it was like 20s. And it was thick, and I'm telling you, the box I had didn't have very wide slot there for it to go. Okay, I learned my lesson. We do not take up formal offerings. Okay, we do have a blessing we say every week for those that are giving, but we do not want to pressure anybody. We're not going to embarrass anybody. We're not going to, take up 5 offerings like the Adventists do during a service, and then send the children around to get you even more. I seriously, if I go any place, I give the offering the first time. If you can ask for a second one, I'm like, I already gave what I was going to give. I mean, I already thought about it, and that's it. You know, I'm going to give what I'm going to give. I went to this one Sukkot conference, or it was Passover Sukkot, I think it was Sukkot, and they took up an offering, a formal offering, at least every day. And I'm thinking, if I'm here all week, I'm only giving what I'm giving. I'm going to have my heart decide what I'm giving. Why would I break it up into 5 or 6 times during the week? And see, the whole thing is it's trying to pressure people into getting in their pockets, which we would never do that. Because I think that's disgusting, actually, you know. And I actually went up to the guy. I said, look, you're making me not want to be here. I said, you know, I get taken up an offering. That's fine. I gave what I wanted to the first time. I don't appreciate this way of doing things, you know. And I know you guys don't, okay? Anyway, Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi. Yeah, I appreciate you. Never done that, so I appreciate that. My last question is about details.
Oh, because it doesn't match this.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how the details matter, you know, and so in our lives, day to day, right? I mean, I do have blue, like me, of course. So I definitely do look at details, but how much should we, can we consume with details in your life, you know, and maybe it's too much, you know, always we have to have a balance with that, or can you help us with how to apply this?
Okay, well, look, details matter, meaning the details that he gives us matter, okay? It's not that you have to be anally obsessed with every detail of everything in your life, okay? However, if you're not focused enough on some details in some areas, those things are going to get, you know, spiraling into the ditch. It could be your relationships, it could be your health, it could be your finances. I mean, you have to pay attention to the details. But you could also get bogged down in them, too, if you're not careful, and that's what you want to be careful with. So there are things that Yah gives us that he gives us concepts, and other things he gives us specifics. And so some things he gives us both. That's why you need Deuteronomy 17, because there are some specifics to things, but that doesn't cover specifics of every possible scenario for that thing. Whether it's Sabbath keeping or whatever it is, there's not every detail covered. But there's enough concepts that someone in a decision-making person of Deuteronomy 17 can take the concept and say this would be the right ruling, you know, even though that particular thing doesn't have a detail, okay? Because, look, we live in a world that is very different than the world those things were given in. There was no electricity. There was no cars. There's a lot of things that we have today they didn't have. So somebody had to make a decision like, well, is it okay to drive on Shabbat? Now, if you're Orthodox, the answer is no, as far as the Jews are concerned, okay? If you're conservative, the answer is maybe. It depends on your health condition, how old you are, and all these other things, okay? So it's actually maybe. And if you're Reform, it's absolutely you can do it, okay? And it's not because one is stronger and one is weaker. It has to do with who gets to make the decision. The Orthodox say, what's been written, so it shall be done. Okay? So it's nobody can really change how they've been doing things. The conservatives can all get together and make a decision as a group. Okay? They have like an organization to whatever degree. And then the Reform, the local rabbi can make the decision for the group. Okay? So it really has to do with that level of stuff. But because I don't want you to think, well, Orthodox are more observant than Reform. There's some Reform that observe a lot more than Orthodox because it's just choosing that you identify in a certain way. I know a lot of Orthodox. I grew up with a lot of Orthodox that kept nothing. But if you ask them, they tell you they were Orthodox. But you're not keeping anything. Well, but my family is Orthodox. It's almost like saying that's my cultural denomination. I don't know. It's like some sort of a identifier, you know. It'd be like saying I'm an American, but I come from New York City. Okay, so I'm a Jew of the Orthodox persuasion, but I don't keep anything. All right? Because I used to think it had to do more with the level of observance. Orthodox keep more, Reform keep less. Well, that's just not true. Okay? It's just not necessarily true. I mean, you know, my family identified as conservative. I don't think we were very much along those lines. Okay? The things we did would have been more along the lines of conservative when we did them compared to the Reform. And the synagogue we went to was a conservative synagogue. But I mean, so don't look at it that way. But anyway, there are things that, again, are more conceptual, where detail is lacking. However, there's many things, an abundance of things, where detail is not lacking. And he wants you to pay attention, Janet was asking, right, to that detail, okay? So you got to look at all the areas of your life. We got the 7 areas I talk about and say, look, is there any place where I'm getting bogged down in the weeds of the details, or is there any places where I'm just ignoring the details and the thing is going sideways because I'm not paying attention? And it really has to be taken on a sort of item by item, situation by situation sort of basis, okay? If you're trying to make sure your budget's perfect before you have a budget, you'll never have a budget. Because I hate to tell you, your budget will never be perfect. I know you hate that idea, but you've already seen it to be true, okay? Which is why every month you're like, ugh, and you got to tweak it, okay? So, yes, you have to deal with it. You had hope? Sorry. Crushed that dream. Okay, so, I don't want you to give up hope. You should be trying to get it to where it's perfect, but it just won't be because the things that you deal with in life are not static. And if it was static, you could have a perfect budget. If things were static, you could have a more perfect relationship. You ever notice that the person you thought you knew 100% all of a sudden did something you didn't expect? That's because people are not static necessarily, right? Maybe they give off a lot of static. Okay, but we change. Things change. So you pay attention to the details the best you can. Okay, just don't get so wrapped up in them that you get, that paralysis by analysis sort of problem. All right? So good question, Janet. Thank you. Now that I've totally warped Sarah Beth's mind, she can come up and ask her question.
Yes, I will agree with the perfect budget that was in my dreams. Okay.
Yes, this is the person whose hope I just crushed. Okay, go ahead.
And liberated the parts of me that I was torturing, so thank you. You also liberated me with the unclear detail thing, because I was obviously one of the ones that get bogged down with the wanting to do it perfectly, but if he didn't give detail, then there's no perfect detail to obey.
Exactly. Look, don't get me wrong, and I know you already know this, but I'm going to say it for them. The effort is what matters. So, for example, knowing you'll never have a perfect budget doesn't mean don't try. Because you'll still have something that's way more functional than if you don't try. Okay? All right? You'll never have a perfect relationship, but it'll be awful if you don't try. Right? All kinds of things in your life won't necessarily ever be perfect, but you must make the effort. He's watching and judging the effort. Okay? And so don't let go of the dream. Keep putting in the effort. Just don't torture yourself because you don't get there, thinking I must be doing something wrong because it's never gotten there. It won't ever get there. Okay? All right, go ahead. Camera did not catch that face, but I did. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I had a very powerful imagery. I guess this is kind of a comment. Hopefully you will agree with it. So comment/question that I'm seeing this correctly. So I was reading a book, and in it there was this apprentice to this, master warrior, and he kind of graduated, and they immediately faced some really difficult adversaries. Would that be kind of, and then the trainer was very impressed that his student performed equal to him, which wouldn't that be what we're talking about with the unidentified, he gives us lots of issues that aren't clear, where we have to make those wilderness decisions. That's basically the same thing as taking the student out and having him face and actually try his blade and seeing him make good decisions.
Yeah, I guess it would be something similar to that. I mean, look, the main thing is this. He knows he put us in a universe. I'm not just going to say this world right now, but in a universe that there will always be the random, nuanced, different something. Maybe not so nuanced, maybe radically different something. And he wants to know that you do this when you raise your children. You want to raise your children so that they'll be able to handle all of the strange things that are going to pop up in their lives. okay? Because life is somewhat predictable and somewhat unpredictable. So you can train them for the things that are predictable, but you also have to train them with the ability to handle that which is not predictable, so that they have the skill sets to observe, learn, and adjust. Okay, that's the phrase I've always used, but think about how it applies in this situation. If you train somebody correctly, they can observe what's going on, reach into the pool of experience, knowledge, and training they have, see how it might apply to the situation. That's sort of the learning phase. Okay, I'm learning about what's happening, and then I'm taking the learning I already have and seeing how that applies, and then I can make adjustments. And then those adjustments may or may not work well. I might have to learn from that and make new adjustments by observing how well my adjustments work. So a lot of these have to do with trained in terms of skill sets, but also trained in terms of concepts. Okay? We need to train. See, that's why parents, you have to stop doing every single thing for your children. They will learn. They're more capable than you think. They will handle the adversities. Otherwise, how are they going to grow? Okay? How are they ever going to grow? You know? I mean, I was reading one book where a guy was training, and the guy who was training him just beat the snot out of him every single time that they got together. But you know what? He got better. And you know what else he did? He never complained about it. He knew he was going to get beat up every time he went into the training session. Okay? But ultimately, it grew. His character, his ability also to handle getting beat up a little bit, because sometimes in life you're going to get beat up a little bit. You got to be able to handle it. You know, we are raising, sadly, very weak children. Okay, each generation, I've said this so many times from the mic over the last 15 years. Okay, sadly, we're raising weaker and weaker and weaker generations. And part of it is, you know what? It's your fault. You who are parenting these children and not allowing them to suffer adversity, not teaching them how to handle it. Instead of coddling them, teach them that you're strong enough to do this. You can handle this. You can make it through this and come out and thrive in spite of it. Instead of coddling them. Oh, but I feel so bad for them. Feel worse for the fact that you're ruining them. They have no strength to handle anything. I mean, the stuff that young adults go through today, I'm like, are you kidding me? You couldn't have handled the 80s, okay? There's no way you could have handled the 80s, 70s, 80s, into the 90s. There's just no way, because nobody helped us do anything. I mean, they just threw us, and we didn't get to sit inside and play on computers and our phone. They threw us out of the house and said, don't come back till the sun goes down. And some of you are like, well, weren't your parents worried about you? I have no idea. And they had no idea where I was either, and they did not care. They were like, do not come back till that sun goes down. And we were not sent out with water bottles. Water bottles? Oh, we got a rusty hose. I'm sure that didn't hurt anything. You know. No brain damage from that. No bacteria or anything else going in that hose. Just let it run for a few seconds till the hot stuff finishes, right? Because it comes out in the sun, like super hot. That's the water you do not drink. When it starts coming out a little colder, yeah, take a shot. Okay, no water bottles, no food, no snacks, no knee pads and helmets on our bicycles and our skateboards. No, we were jumping over, this goofy like ramps we would make. They were flying over the handlebars and whatever. Okay? But we also grew up to be tough. Okay? Okay? But we're not doing that. We're coddling these people. Did you see Abba coddling anybody? Okay? There's no coddling them. All right? As soon as they get to the land, He purposely allows it to be the scariest mess they could imagine. And you know what? When they come out crying about it, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's okay. Don't worry. No, he says, you didn't trust me. But we're afraid. So grow up. You're not going to grow up? Fine. Go die in the wilderness. the next generation can grow up. I'm just, don't ruin your kids, okay? Now, they may be a little bit weaker, meaning they need a little bit more encouragement to get through stuff than maybe we did, but don't just coddle them. This world is not getting easier and better. Did anybody notice that? Okay? I mean, we may have gone through a tougher time in terms of how we were just expected to handle things, but the world is not easier now than it was for us, okay? It's tougher in a lot of ways, okay? It's tougher in a lot of ways, and we're just not helping. We are not helping by helping too much, okay? All you helicopter moms, put the helicopters away, all right? But what if something bad happens? Listen, then how'd you survive? Stuff happened to you, and you survived it. You figured it out. It made you tougher, made you smarter, hopefully, right? Got some wisdom out of the whole deal. Did a few things that are like, not doing that again, right? Besides, you wouldn't have listened to anybody, neither will your kids listen to you either. Might as well just, kind of give them the strength to get through it, right? And help give them some guidance to say, this is why you probably shouldn't do this, and they go out and do it anyway, and you go, I told you, it's okay. My mother never panicked that I fell down, scraped my leg, tore holes in my jeans and everything all the time, and, I get yelled at for putting holes in the jeans. Nobody cared about the fact that I tore my leg up. Those are brand new. Well, so then the revenge was we used to put patches on them. Boy, that wasn't embarrassing. Because they never picked anything that looked anything like the pants you were wearing on purpose. People just look at you like, your mom got you, didn't she? Yeah, she did. New pants, huh? Yep. Ruined them the first day. Well, who said you shouldn't play tackle football on the street? Some of you the children are like, you would do that? You guys wouldn't even play tackle football on the grass. Look, we played full contact basketball. No autopsy, no foul, That was a foul. What are you talking about? You didn't even fall down. You're still on your feet. There's no foul. Yeah, but my nose is bleeding. I said, okay. That's kind of what I expected when I hit you with my elbow. That was kind of the point. Different world. All right, different world. So you guys are all laughing because you grew up in the same place I did. Okay? I remember the first time somebody would call foul, we just laughed at. Foul. You're still breathing. You're not on the floor crying. That's not a foul. Okay? Anyway, Sarah Beth's been up here patiently waiting for her turn to get back as I've been just throwing my stand-up routine out on a Friday night. Go ahead.
And enjoying it, so it's fine.
I'm just testing to see if Maisie's ribs are any better. See, because I made her laugh and hurt her ribs the other day, so I just want to make sure she's okay. So I'm testing them out. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so again, kind of still in my altered perspective from the book I was reading today. And there was different authority structures and a lot of authority structures within authority structures, like kings subjugating other kings and stuff. So I just thought about how great a flex, and I love how you labeled us little G's. That was really cool. How great a flex on Yahweh's part to command us little G's to stop everything that we're doing, all of our kingdom building, all of our wants and all of our doings, and shift our focus on Him, to command our attention off of ourselves and onto Him. How great a way for us to show love, devotion, and submission towards Him, to show our loyalty to the King. And I just thought that really resonated with the things you were saying. And it was just, am I seeing that the same way you were talking about it?
Well, yeah, and also I think it helps, okay, and this is why I think it helps that we have a building that we're built, just because it helps to have something that you look at it and go, this is a reminder of what we're doing. Not so much just building a building, but like once they had this tent of meeting, once they had this tabernacle, there was something to look at and go, oh, that's to represent the authority in our group. the authority above all of us. There's a physical representation. Now, I know that lots of cultures did it with idols. Whoops. Lots of cultures did it with idols, right? He didn't want an idol. He didn't want anything to represent him. But at least it was something that was there to remind people that he was amongst them, okay? Now, of course, you had the pillar of cloud, too, and the fire at night. But still, there was this building that they all participated in putting together to some degree. I mean, obviously, there was 3 million people. They didn't all help build this thing. It didn't take that many people to build it, okay? But they all contributed things for it and contributed things that would be eventually put together or melted together or forged in some way to produce this thing, right? But then every time they looked at it, it was a reminder, oh, we are the people of that guy, the one who dwells inside that tent over the mercy seat, okay? So I think that it's nice to have some sort of a reminder of what we are and what we're doing, you know? And of course, meeting in a house doesn't quite do that. You know, meeting in a hotel rented space doesn't quite do that. But having a building that, you know, the only purpose of this building is for meeting with him and doing things that are focused on him, I think is a beautiful thing that helps just kind of give us a different focus and a different mindset, okay? So I think it helps a lot. All right, so I'm excited about it. Now, it's not about building the fanciest, greatest edifice to him, which is what David wanted to do. And of course, Yah was like, I don't need all that. Of course, the very blue King David was like, I'm not hearing any of that. You deserve the best of everything, you know. So, I mean, you know, that was sort of, that's why he didn't let David build it. He's like, no, your attitude is all wrong here. Okay, you need to know I don't need all that. Okay? But he also honored David and said, yeah, we'll get it built, because he said, I know your heart's there. Okay, I know your heart's there. But I'm going to torture it a little bit by not letting you finish it. You're not going to build this thing. Okay. Anybody else? All right, live stream.
All right, from Olivia. Rabbi, in 25:8, they shall make me a set-apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst. Is this what we are doing? We're making our lives an action, thought, deed, heart, set apart, so we can dwell with him?
Yes. And that goes back to the verse 9, where it says, build it according to the pattern, which goes back to 1 Corinthians 6:19. Okay, well, you are the dwelling place, yes. Oh, that was it. All right, excellent. Hope that was good for everybody. Again, another really great job by Rebbetzin and Selena and the tech team to finally get it to whatever we were able to get done today, so it still worked out. Also, beautiful artwork. Okay, fantastic. I know Vera did a lot of great stuff there, the artwork. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And let me tell you something. If you were to go online and look up most of the stuff that was in that artwork, you would find multiple different looking things. And trying to figure out what it actually was supposed to look like is tough. And Rebbetzin was absolutely detail focused to make sure to get it looking the best she thought would be as accurate as it could be. Okay? And every time she would kind of do a little more research and be like, oh, that thing needs to be on the other side or needs to be at the bottom or the top or something. And that would have, of course, then Vera had to try and change the picture and everything, which didn't happen too often. I know that happened like all the time. But anyway, but you know, because the detail was that they wanted to get it right, okay? And they wanted to see as accurate a depiction of it as they could. And so we're not claiming it's right, but it is the best accurate depiction that Rebbetzin was able to come up with, and I think she did a fantastic job, okay? All right, so we do need to close this up because Elder was supposed to teach tomorrow, and he will not be, because he will not be here. And so that means you're getting a impromptu from me. I don't know what it will be yet. I have an idea. So I'm hoping it will even be a one-part teaching. We're going to see if we can have a miracle happen. Wonder of wonders, miracle of... Okay, I'm going to try... Rabbi did a one-part teaching. Okay. It could be two, just because that'll get us to the next zone meetings, right? So it could be two. All right, and then Elder will teach after that. So it's either going to be one or two parts. I have an idea. It may be motivated by mortality, which I've been telling you guys I was going to do. So I've been working on that. Of course, knowing my relationship with our Creator, He may change everything after I sign off right now. So we'll see how that goes. as I tweak whatever. But I did start working on this yesterday. This is where I praise Yah for whatever anointing he gives me, because I had to write this in one day. So with not a whole lot of prep. But I think it's going to be something that will bless you guys for tomorrow. We'll keep that in prayer, and we'll see what that turns out to be. Anyway, I've been just stalling because I want to see how long Oliver can stand there just waiting. Ollie can wait for when it's his turn to actually say the prayer. Okay, so if you all rise, we'll close in prayer. It'll be led by Mr. Ollie. Okay, come on up a little bit higher. There you go.
Testing.
There you go.
Adonenu Yahweh, great glory and honor to you for this set-apart time where we feasted on your word expressed by a rabbi through Parsha Terumah. Aid us in applying what you opened our eyes to so we can be built according to your blueprints and materials, a mishkan kadosh v'yatziv lecha, a holy and stable dwelling place for you. Guard us and keep us safe as we drive home tonight, ready for more tomorrow. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Showing off a little bit of Hebrew, which was good. Appreciated that. Constantine. All right. All right, if you want to be on camera, come on this side. If you don't, then go on that side. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at this camera. What's it, camera 4? It's got a 4 on it. That must be camera 4. All right, we're going to look at camera 4, and we're going to go ahead and try to connect with our family worldwide. And we're going to wish them all a Shabbat Shalom, and we're going to tell them that we love them. Here we go, on 3. 1, 2, 3.